Movies. The average person can be inspired by them. They can make us laugh. Movies can keep us on the edge of our seat, and so much more. Maddie's Movie Mix is a podcast for movie enthusiasts of all kinds. We hope you enjoy the show.
Wait. Matt Logan!
Yes, we both had the same problem. You.
Listen. You smell something?
I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
That's definitely just killing me, Matt.
Excuse me. Sorry, Tyler.
That's still classified as murder.
I know, that's really interesting because Batman is always like his whole thing is that he doesn't kill anybody.
I mean, again, going off the philosophy is like he technically didn't kill him.
Technically.
That's a real technical point of like, I don't know. I just threw you off the cliff. I didn't kill you. The impact hitting the ground is what killed you.
Exactly. It's pretty. I found that line extremely funny.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Nolan.
Yeah.
Christopher.
And Stafford.
He did a great job with his trilogy.
Yeah, he did.
We can't argue that.
He normally doesn't do trilogies. He doesn't like doing trilogies.
That's absolutely true. I think that getting into this, he knew he had to.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
I mean, the name itself is Batman Begins.
Begins, yeah, that's a good point.
You
good
can't
point.
Just,
no.
All right, we've begun. Where's...
You know, I was just thinking, when the whole new remodel space is done, should be done like pretty soon.
Yeah.
I didn't explain what that's going to look like to you, did I?
No, am I getting a perch where I can just like cowl over like the Batman?
Yeah. Ooh, that was a good scene in Batman Begins, wasn't it? Where he was like overlooking the whole city.
I love those shots.
Yeah.
I think there's been movies since, I guess, well, Spider-Man did it too, I guess. But the dark side, like when I was watching Venom, I was like, this is just like Batman.
Yeah.
Except, I mean, they're both black, so I mean, they're hard to see. But it's still cool that you can see the panoramic of the city.
Yeah. It's really cool. That's a cool shot. One of my favorite shots. Yeah, for sure. I guess I didn't realize now that you say that Venom, though. I mean, it did. Yeah, Venom had it in it too. But so anyway, we're gonna do kind of a little bit more of a hangout for the podcast look, and we talked about that on the phone too. But so everything is gonna be black, like a theater.
Everything's better in black.
It's way better, and I'm going to have the TV on the wall behind us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I have neon lights that are going to go behind it. Like,
that'll look neat.
Hopefully, I didn't get them yet. I've looked at several of them, but I'm hoping the ones that I want are going to be able to change color.
Yeah.
You know, and so the TV wall mount and stuff, and that'll go around the edge of the TV and kind of reflect. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
I think hopefully the next episode we should be ready for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I think. But it takes more time. It always takes more time than you think, and some of that crap too. But,
that's right.
But hopefully. So, yeah, it's going to be all a black background. And so the lights are like on us.
Right.
And then we have the TV.
Yeah.
And we're not going to like screen the films that we review, but I want to have it like running in the background.
Oh, yeah, like the movie going?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. So obviously the new ones that are in theaters, we can't do that with.
Right.
But maybe we'll have.
Well, that's what HBO Max is for.
Well, exactly. There's a lot
Everything's
of
just going straight to streaming.
It's streaming, yeah, totally.
Which is crazy to me.
I kind of screwed up too. I got to tell you.
Oh my gosh, this is like the truth session.
This is right. This is all spilling out, man. Yeah. But I signed into an old Netflix.
Oh, really?
And I bought it again. So I've got for this month. I screwed that up because I put in a new Fire Stick and plug for Amazon.
You got to test it out.
And so I'm signing into all this stuff.
Oh, and because of that, it reactivated?
I signed into an old Netflix account from a different email.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from an old email I never use anymore.
And it reactivated it?
And it reactivated it.
That's so crazy.
I know. And it was like, I mean, literally like 2 buttons. I mean, I remember the password and everything.
Yeah, they don't make it hard to sign up, but they certainly make it hard to get out of it.
Yes, totally. So I was like, oh.
Here I go again.
So
Mamma mia.
For, the next like 20 more days or whatever. I tune Netflix.
Go watch The Adam Project.
Yeah, well, yeah, we got to do that for sure.
Other than that, they removed the Marvel movies, or not movies, the TV shows, Daredevil.
Yeah.
But the good news,
tell it.
Probably what you were going to say, but I will cut you off.
Yeah.
That they're going to, it looks like they're getting set up to do season 4 of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Which is going to be phenomenal.
I know. I love it. That's going to be great. But anyway, it was just, it's been a fun week. And I think that the new space, as we get it finished, is going to be fun. I'm going to talk to you afterwards, but I haven't, like the chairs and some of that setup, I haven't quite figured out yet.
Get the whole beanbag, so we'll get the full relaxation that we won't even be able to get out once we're in.
I think the whole beanbag thing, people would see my double chin, triple. I can't remember. Beard's covering it up enough right now.
That's what editing's for.
Oh, okay. That's what the Photoshop is. That
That's
how
right.
you do that? All right. No, but it's exciting. We've got some. It's going to be a good summer.
Yeah,
Great summer movies to do.
Lots of movies coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, Batman Begins. We got to begin with the review of Batman Begins.
That's right. Directed again by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, totally.
We're going the full loop.
And as a refresher, I pulled up the list of actors because I had to duck out of here a little early. I had to run up to the cities.
Yeah.
We were super late last week, but so I just wanted to look at everything again, and so I pulled it up. But Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Ken Watanabe, and we like Ken.
Mostly
why do
because
we like Ken?
We just like saying Watanabe.
Exactly. Katie Holmes and Gary Oldman and Tom Wilkinson and Cillian Murphy and Rutger Hauer and
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, look at all this just amazing talent. Yeah. This movie was incredible. I remember going to the theaters when this thing came out, and I was like, "Whoa! I can't wait for the." And at that time, we knew there was at least going to be one more.
Right.
They had talked
calling card.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I can't wait. And just phenomenal. I know we've talked about The Dark Knight Rises was not super popular. I really did like it. Maybe someday we'll review it, but just a fun way to begin the reboot, the CPR of Batman.
It is kind of weird that the second and third film, you got The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. So it's kind of odd the first one doesn't have anything about The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I didn't look into. I just thought about that right now.
Oh, really? I thought about that before, and I've never looked into it. But I think personally, it's because we saw kind of the dark side of Batman in this series.
Yeah.
And so they decided, like, hey, because it's sort of so obviously we what was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Iceman and
is that Batman Forever
or
Batman Returns?
Yeah, I don't remember anymore, but it's, whatever. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
The Bat Nips,
like bright comic book, like goofy comedy Batman.
Those all of them. Besides the one with Danny DeVito and Jack Nicholson, but like you even got Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, that was another movie in itself.
Yeah,
which was just I love that movie. To me,
fun.
That's I can't go back to the word of campy. Like that's just as like both the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tommy, like the one with the Riddler and Tommy Lee. I think they are both incredibly cheesy.
Oh, for sure.
Like
absolutely.
I don't understand why one gets.
I was
such
trying to
a bad
decide
rap.
if it was a comedy or what it was.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Freeze and all of his froze puns.
Mr. Freeze. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love
rabbit hole, squirrel, whatever. But we're coming out of that era,
right?
And so this is a reboot, obviously. Yeah. And I think that personally, what I thought about I think the reason they didn't do the first one as a dark is they didn't want people to think they were going to be showing him as the dark Batman, the dark side of Batman.
Dark side of the
Right?
moon. Yeah.
And that's my personal opinion.
And even if you look at the poster of the first one, which you got me a fantastic one, which I love. You got the bright, when you look at the poster itself, you got the bright, well, it's not bright, but you got the lighter colors.
Yeah.
And then you got the dark Batman. But again, in the 2 and 3, if you look at the posters, they're basically identical, besides one has like the red.
I know.
And the other one has continuity. That's the, like, if I were to have one complaint about this trilogy, it's like, why did you not name, like, obviously they were all tied together, and 2 and 3 specifically, like, you were very intentional of the names that you picked and that they were resonating with each other. So why didn't you just, like, you can Batman Begins, the Dark Knights, I don't even know, Begins. You can even do Begins for that.
Right. You could. Totally could. So that's my, like, sidebar note on that. That's why I think they did it that way, because they didn't want fans to come in thinking this is dark. We don't want.
That's true.
We don't want our teenagers to watch it. We don't, something like that. Maybe.
But then they fully go into it because
they hooked everybody with it.
Well, but I still think Batman Begins is highly underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember it being talked about a lot.
No.
When it came, like, it was
That's
a good
because
film.
you were like 5 years old. 2005.
I was 11.
I know. I'm just.
I hit my teens. I hit puberty-ish. Yeah, that's true. But, like, I don't know. Dark Knight was phenomenal. And I don't think it really... The name had no hindrance of, like, people watching the film.
Again, I think the reason it wasn't called, like, The Dark Knight Begins, they could have done that very easily.
Just think of the bot. Like, okay. Again, I wouldn't have mind 2 and 3 like being similar covers if the first one would have matched that. Because think of all, like, the continuity stuff you could do. But
yeah,
no, I do like the bats creating the symbol. I thought that was really cool, and they never went back to that.
Yeah,
which is a bummer. Or even oh my gosh, like when he was saving Rachel and he had the bat sonar thing, and then he threw the sonar down, and then he went through this tunnel of bats.
Yeah,
they never used that again either.
No, they should have.
Why not?
Yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah.
The other thing, I guess, a negative for this one too would have been Scarecrow. They didn't show Scarecrow as much as I thought they should have. Like, that's a pretty crucial character in this storyline,
right?
And Scarecrow just wasn't like. I mean, how many times did he put the mask on? 3 or 4?
One, he did it for the interrogation when he first dosed Batman, and then the second time they dosed Batman. No, they didn't, because he was just walking around.
Yeah.
So I would say probably 3 times.
So I thought that was a little bit like, should have probably leaned into that whole.
But was he the main villain? There's that argument too. Like, obviously he had a main part, and Scarecrow, like, going to the comics is never like. I mean, to me, it's kind of like Bane, where he's not like. I guess in the Dark Knight Rises, but still, he wasn't working. There was another person working behind the scenes that was actually having a bigger master plan, and that's what happened with this one too.
Scarecrow was the main villain in the sense of he was the master plan.
He wasn't the master plan. Ra's al Ghul.
Well, I mean, but you didn't know that
until the end.
Right. So
Right. And I don't remember any of the advertising going into this. Like, what were they focusing on? I'm sure they put Liam Neeson in a bunch of the promos.
Oh, yeah. I remember that specifically, for sure. You had to. I mean,
right.
He's at that point, I mean, he might have been probably bigger than Christian Bale as far as that goes.
I have no doubt.
More recognizable. Yeah.
So I don't remember the advertisement of, like, who are they showing off as a villain?
Right. No, I guess I don't specifically remember. I do remember Liam Neeson a lot. Yeah. And so Christian Bale came off of, was that American Psycho?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I've never seen that.
I haven't seen it. Well, again.
That's not your kind of movie.
Yeah, the whole Thor horror. Like, we'll probably have to watch even. What's the shower scene one? Where that's really famous. Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, Alfred. That's Psycho.
Yeah,
Psycho. Yeah.
Or the one with
I've seen that. It's been a really long
Nicolas
time.
Cage, or not Nicolas Cage. Why did I say Nicolas?
You got to see The Rock. Have you seen The Rock?
I have seen The Rock.
Yeah, I recently watched The Rock.
That
Most
one's
of it, I
really
might
good.
have fallen asleep a couple of times.
Whenever my dad would get a new sound system, he would play that movie because there's a lot of bass. Yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah. And it has one of your Bond actors in it. So how could you go wrong?
May he rest in peace.
Do you want to know something funny when they were shooting this movie?
Yeah.
While they were shooting, so it was obviously based in Chicago. That's where they did a good chunk of the shooting.
Yep.
A person accidentally crashed into the Batmobile because the driver was apparently drunk. And he hit the car in a state of panic, believing the Batmobile to be an invading alien spacecraft.
He was really drunk. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, well, drunk and then probably slightly, probably not mentally, I don't know. The Batmobile does look weird.
It does, but it does
still
also.
a car.
Yeah, it also does. Right, it's got rubber wheels.
Yeah,
it's got it. It does have that military look to it.
Yeah,
though.
it does.
You could. I mean, Mom, I hope you're not listening right now. Dad, you either. But I've been drunk enough.
Yeah.
In last week. I mean, no, I'm kidding. No, but I've never been delusionally drunk.
Right.
I don't even know what that would look like.
I don't know either.
That's weird to think of it as an alien.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So I thought that was really funny. The other cool fact that I have, or I have a few, but the other one I think is really interesting. So Hans Zimmer was the composer, which I really do like.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight Rises, my friend and I, he bought that soundtrack, and it was one of the first soundtracks I just listened to for enjoyment. We would listen to it on car rides. But for this movie, Hans Zimmer named the songs of the soundtrack after bats.
Oh, really?
And the other cool part is that tracks 4 through 9, if you take the first letter, it spells out Batman.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I was like,
that's
no,
clever.
No way they did that. So not only is it based off of bats, the names, but you spell out Batman within the soundtrack, which is super cool.
That is very cool.
He didn't do that in 2 or 3, but in the first one he did, and it was...
That's really creative. Yeah. That's brilliant.
My man Hans.
So before we start rating this, actor chemistry and all that fun stuff, budget was $150 million.
Yeah, it was.
Again, I know I've talked about this before. 5 years before this was Titanic.
Yeah.
It broke $100 million.
Right.
And they lost their stuff.
Yeah.
On that.
Right.
I remember it was national news. Not entertainment news.
Right.
This was a Titanic budget blows up more than $100 million, blah, blah,
Yeah.
I remember all that stuff. And so now just a few years later,
yeah,
they're like, no big deal.
Yeah.
150.
Well,
go for it.
Again, going off the Titanic in itself, huge success.
But that's not what made it a success.
Right.
It's not the money that was thrown at it. It's the way they told the story and did the story. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew the stupid ship was going to sink and most people were going to die, but they still went to the movie, and I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
Sequel.
Right? The story is incredible. The way they wrote it was
that's going to Batman. So obviously now there's DC versus Marvel. Those are the two big industries. And Marvel did a much better job of tying a universe together. 100%. DC is a mess.
DC's a mess, but they got it right before in different singular ways, I guess would be the way to say it, before Marvel ever.
They do much better TV shows, and they do much better, again, animated stuff too.
Yeah.
Both of those, I think DC blows out of the water if you watch any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I have always enjoyed about DC is that it's always been grittier.
Yeah.
And I think they've had... Marvel, I think, plays too much into humor. It's owned by Disney. I mean, after Iron Man 1, it got bought out.
Yeah.
And so I feel always been more off of humor and telling a story and being action-packed.
Yeah.
The story is not always significant.
True.
Where I like DC, at least specifically Batman, is I feel they do a very good job of diving into like Batman Begins is probably one of my favorite origin stories.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
super
agree.
cool of how it's done. And again, Batman's
you sorry to interrupt, but you like Bruce Wayne in this one.
I do.
Like, I don't mean you specifically, but
person.
But you think about any of the other. I think about any of the other Batmans, and it's Bruce Wayne. Who? Bruce who?
Yeah.
It's not a big deal,
right?
Because he's just not a very good character. But this one, you're like, you feel bad for him as a,
right?
You see as a kid and his parents,
finders keepers,
yeah, like, all of these things. You're like attached emotionally, yeah, totally, yeah.
So I've enjoyed even the more recent. I like the grittier stuff. I think that's when you're doing grittier things, you're more reliant on characters and the story rather than just scenes and actions and humor.
Yeah.
So that's why it intrigues me more typically with these films than what a Marvel one is. I could watch Batman Begins, the whole trilogy, over and over. Whereas if I watch a Marvel film, sometimes I'm like, this is like kind of bland. Yeah,
you do. For me, I do pick up more with a lot, especially these Batman ones.
Yeah.
This trilogy, I pick up a lot more each time I watch them.
Yeah. Rather
than just like laugh a little bit less at the joke.
Right.
The next time, right?
Yeah.
And where I actually pick up a lot more of the nuance and the character and all of those things. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
I love Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon. By far, again, a great casting for that role. He looks again. I grew up with like the animated Batman series, and so like seeing that mustache, those glasses, the hair was like, this connects. Like he was younger, so he didn't have the gray hair. I was like, this is a very believable character. And again, he was in awe of the Batman. And he was like stuck in the police system wanting it to change. And so you could see that like inner tension of like, obviously he's a vigilante, especially when he first starts and has a stapler put to the back of his head.
Yeah.
Like, who are you? And then he chases after him. And then, but you get to be,
and he doesn't even have the suit. Like right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved how that was written.
And then going to humor of like, we could put these two together. Like, how many do you think we should buy, Alfred? Well, 10,000 should be good. At least we'll have backups. But yeah, Jim Gordon did one of my favorite castings. I love Michael Caine as Alfred. He's a super great, wise character of like truly caring for both Bruce and his legacy as much as Bruce does.
Yeah, and Michael Caine, because of the significance he had in the film industry at this point in his life, was so believable.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even have to. All he had to do was like practically read his lines, and you're like, yeah, he's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But obviously he's a brilliant actor,
right?
But what I'm saying is like it's just it's so good.
Yeah.
He did so good. I agree.
Again, I like Christian Bale. If we ever go into debates of who our favorite Batman is, actor-wise, it's hard. It's hard because they're also different. Christian Bale fit this trilogy well for what the story they were telling with the Batman.
Yeah.
So I liked, again, that Bruce Wayne aspect of like, he was really analytical, and you could see his mind or his wheels turn as he was thinking and processing of like, what's going on? How do I solve this? And then you see him do it as the Batman.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. Lucius Fox, I loved Morgan Freeman. Seems like a smart inventor, science. All of 4.8 is there's no bad casting except for potentially Rachel's character.
That's funny
because she got recasted.
Yeah, and I thought I like Katie Holmes.
Yeah,
I think that in hindsight she was going through a lot of weird stuff in her life at this point. It came out, that Tom Cruise didn't want her to do this.
Right.
Didn't want her to be around all those men and all this stuff. Just weird deal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately to me, I could see that come through in her acting.
Right.
I don't think that was not her best.
No.
And that brought the score down a lot for me.
Yeah.
Some of the editing with her, I thought, and maybe they did that just because her she wasn't at her best. I don't want to like. I've said this before. This review isn't to just like slam things and be negative, but there's just realities. Yeah. And so I think with that combination of the way they edited a couple of her scenes where it was kind of blocky, and it was like, why did you cut to that? In my mind anyway. And so it might have just been they didn't get very good scenes with her on it, so they had to like change it. You got the
and she
story
wasn't
enough.
in a ton of
No,
scenes.
Right. So it was a 4-4 for me, specifically because of her, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. The other thing I liked is the dynamic between Thomas, like when they did the flashback between Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Of like, why do we follow Bruce so we get back up? And that was a constant repetition throughout the film. And I liked the opera scene where the bats were happening.
Yes.
And that the dad was like, yeah, I'm not feeling well. Like it was cool to see like that dad figure of like, man, that's really cool that he did that. And then it's the next scene is tragic. Spoiler, they die. Like it happens.
If you didn't know that,
surprisingly,
you don't know Batman at all.
That's right. Batman is the orphan. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. I liked the caves and the training location. So I liked the Bat Cave. I thought it was pretty cool that he fell into that hole, and then that's where his Bat Cave began.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool like rebirth of like conquering fears.
Right.
And I liked the training, like when they were training with Liam Neeson. I think his name was Deckard, but obviously the Ra's al Ghul whole thing.
Oh yeah. I had it Deckard. Yep.
I thought those really cool scenes were really cool with the ice. Fun fact, like they filmed that, the ice scene where it tapped and broke through. The next day they were like doing shooting, all the ice was melted.
No.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Crazy.
I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
I do like Chicago as a Gotham.
Yeah.
It makes sense for the slums and stuff because for better or worse, that's how I associate Chicago at times.
Right.
So I thought all the locations were realistic and fit into, again, the story within the Gotham. So I gave that a 4.7.
Okay, we tied.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think they did it well enough that you knew it was Chicago, but you weren't sure.
Right.
Right? Like it was like, oh, that's, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like that.
Right.
Like too many of them, it's like New York.
Yeah.
But it's not New York.
Right.
It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I did kind of like how they tied that in.
Right.
For sure. And I've been to a couple of those places where they filmed since they filmed it.
Right.
On accident.
Yeah.
But actually one of them was the Washington, D.C. trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, the locations, in this one, they were all very realistic to me.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because
I like the mansion too.
Yes. It was very realistic.
It was vacant, which made sense.
Yes.
Yep.
Because you look at like Michael Keaton's Batman, and there are some realistic looking places, but then some of them were like, whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And so to me, the Batman, the whole persona of Batman is like, this is real life.
Right.
Might be the rich life.
That's right.
But it's still real.
Yeah.
And so when they don't have scenes or locations that make sense in real life, it's like,
It takes you out of the movie.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah.
Especially one like this where, again, as
Star Trek, I get it. I mean,
what is their mission? Like go where no man has gone before.
Right. 5-year mission.
That's right.
There was a few things that I was, so the cave, a couple of the cave scenes, it was a little inconsistent in a couple places. That's what I have down anyway.
Right.
Some of it was more like I didn't write this down, but the inconsistency. But what I remember is it was a little more like glossy looking.
Yeah.
And then some of them were more dull looking.
Right.
Right. So I think cinematography, that has a lot to do with it.
Right.
And for me, and I should go back and look at it again, but
I'm sure that's hard lighting to figure out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's that whole scene where not only do you have the bats going, but like he's sticking his hand into the water, and so you got reflection going off of the rock. And again, I don't know how the set was built, but still, that's great. It could have been done better.
Yeah,
do
you know what I'm talking about? You remember
that
a little bit? Like it looked like even the rocks and stuff really looked glossy on a couple of scenes, and then the other
shiny.
were very shiny and shiny.
That's right.
And so to me that brought it down a little bit. That specifically,
right.
Most of it was pretty good. I thought some of the mansion scenes where they were kind of in that little scuffle. And then they started the fire and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That didn't look real enough to me.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was 2005, I suppose. So there's that, but I think they could have made it look a little bit more real.
Right.
And so that brought me down to 4.2. Still very good film.
Yeah.
Still, like the pan scene that he's perched. I mean, all of that. So many things look really good.
Yeah.
So we're still in the 4s,
That's
but
right.
4.2.
So I agree with what you said with things you don't like. So I'll talk about things that I did like about it. I really liked how, again, the opera scene, how the bats were shown, where it was like PTSD. It felt like PTSD because they did quick shots, and then you see his face kind of like twitch and stuff like that. I thought that was well done. That you could really feel what he was going through. I liked, again, I don't know if this is, I don't know where to add this. I really like that they added or showed the construction of the bat suits. So I don't know where to put that. That isn't technically cinematography, but that's where I put it, because you would see scenes of him putting it together, spray painting the suit, putting together the mask. So stuff like that I really enjoyed.
That was clever how they did that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I liked kind of the hallucinogen moments where Caine's toxin was taking effect.
Yeah.
Like I liked, again, it was very shaky, but you could also like see stuff come out of his mouth. Like that'll go again to costume design, but I liked how those were shot and filmed to make us feel like, oh man, this is really trippy right now.
Yeah. Is that how you feel when you trip?
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly how I feel. And then it goes dark for a moment. I'm like, how did I get here?
Oh boy.
So yeah, I gave cinematography a 4.5.
Okay, cool.
I liked Alfred in his, I don't know what I'm talking about. Alfred in his different suits.
All right, I'll go.
Yeah, you should go.
I really enjoyed, obviously Batman Begins makes a lot of sense the way they developed his suit.
Yep.
I really enjoyed how it was just like, the spelunking and all
jokes.
Of that stuff was clever, super clever. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
that adds a lot when you tell a story of the costume.
Right,
that adds a lot to a design for me.
Right. Well, and you get to see how the costume eventually came together and the reasoning it went into it.
Yeah, totally. Which actually, sidebar, we talked about the Batman, and he had that leather.
Yeah.
Well, I looked it up.
Yeah.
And he got shot in the head. There's a scene, and I Googled it.
Yeah.
Or
that's some strong
actually
leather.
Brave. Brave. I use Brave.
Is that a search?
Yeah, it's search engine. You should use it. It's really good.
Interesting.
But anyway, so I braved it.
Yeah, you did.
And so I found some. They actually had some stills and stuff of where they actually
shot.
had yeah. So I'm like, oh boy,
yeah,
here it is. Anyway, I liked how this costume, the way they designed it, was they really talked about like the knife,
knife, and then there's the graphite. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this was a cool costume design in the suit altogether.
They put the speaker inside the ear.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah. No, it was really good.
One of my favorite parts of just seeing that construction. I wish, again, part of my issue when when I recently watched the Batman, they didn't explain any of the tools that he had.
Yes, that definitely a negative for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the magnetic belts.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, there's just so many cool things.
There really are, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so with some of those things, some really good positives. There was a few things that, I'm like, I don't know. There was some of the cop,
Flask.
Yeah, Flash. Look, I understand that he was like an undercover and things like that, but it still didn't fit. It just didn't fit for me, his costume or his whatever design, and so it brought it to a 4.6 for me.
Yeah,
but the balance was really there. I really enjoyed it.
Again, I love Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
Again, costume design. I mean, the way I see him as Jim Gordon, that was all costume design, how his character was created and how they worked with Gary Oldman. Alfred, too, is another one. I'm like, this guy just resonates, Alfred, in his look and his everything else. So it's hard to look at other people. One thing I find really funny about Batman movies is that they always give the person who's hired as the next Batman or the next Alfred a bunch of crap of like, Robert Pattinson, there's no way he could be a good Batman. I feel like the same thing happened with Christian Bale. Like
it did.
Yeah, there's no way he could be a good Christian Bale. He does all this other. He's super slender, like
because coming off of American Psycho.
Yeah,
that was a big part of it.
So, those things I'm like, I don't even know where that goes into things. But I was just saying, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah, and I'm really glad. I know that it gets like when I was dumb at the beginning of the podcast, I did the stupid voice, which I wasn't even trying to get like accurate. I was being stupid, but I like how they did that in this for his, because he does have kind of a distinct voice,
right?
Especially he kind of has the way his mouth is kind of, you can tell it's him,
right?
No matter what, like he just has a unique looking mouth,
right?
And so I like how they did that with his voice.
Yeah,
and I didn't like how they didn't do that in the Batman.
Right.
I did not like how they didn't disguise his voice.
Right.
Especially with technology.
Yeah, it's so easy to do.
You can,
Edit
but
the crap
anyway.
Out of it. I didn't necessarily like, I feel like they could have done more with Ra's al Ghul's character.
Yeah.
And even the Scarecrow in itself, like he never went full on Scarecrow. Like,
no.
In the comics, he wears that mask. Like he did that again when the city was just going rampant. He was wearing it, but that seemed like because he was just absolutely senile, which again, all these characters are. And like, I just wish I would have seen him with the mask more. And again, he pops up in 2 and 3, but it's still weird that he's not wearing the mask.
Yeah,
because that's a big part of that character. Is the Scarecrow. He's wearing the Scarecrow mask.
In 2, he does wear the mask.
Yeah,
for what, 10
briefly.
seconds?
Yeah,
maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
but that's it.
His character is so weird.
It is
2 and 3.
It is weird. I agree.
He just shows up. So I gave it a 4.6.
Okay.
Costume design.
How come we're tying?
4.8.
4.7.
Sounds good.
We like Hans.
I really do.
I like him too, for sure.
He puts in again. He does really good mechanical noises, like soundtracks. Like it's very da 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 da. Like there's this. I just love it. It's so good. And he does such a simple theme of like bum bum. Like that's so simple, but then the way that he builds it, and within the scene. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It really is.
This is nothing negative. What I'm getting into is like, I have a hard time deciding what my favorite Batman movie is.
Sure.
This is probably, a lot of people's is The Dark Knight.
Oh,
because of Heath Ledger doing a phenomenal job.
He did a phenomenal job, but I think really unfortunately the reason why, is because he died.
Right.
I really think that's why most people like.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of, again, there's the bandwagon side of things.
Yeah.
Or like everybody has this as their favorite. So like rather actually thinking about it and looking at the films.
Exactly.
I'm just going to say The Dark Knight.
I'm going to tag along with you.
Yeah. I'm not going to be contested because people accept that. Yeah. I really enjoyed Batman Begins. I think it set up everything very well. And allowed, again, The Dark Knight to do well and The Dark Knight Rises to do whatever you want to feel about that movie. I loved the introduction of Batman, the way his character was developed. You get to see kind of like, again, you can see the creation of Batman. Like, why did he go into creating a persona where anyone could be the Batman?
Yeah.
He did it because his parents tried with economics.
Right.
Did not work.
Right.
So how am I going to change knowing that happened? And then again, you see the plot twist of Liam saying, we tried that economics with your parents.
Yeah.
And obviously that didn't work. And so he was like, I need to do something else. Like, I'll still obviously have the business side of things of like having that do well. But again, I need to do something vigilantism. Like I got to protect my streets. So I think that's just a really cool concept. And a lot of the other ones, I don't think nail the backstory as well as what Batman Begins was able to do.
Yeah.
Because they put a lot, like that's probably a third of the film.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, third to a half of just developing, like, how did this character come to be who he is?
Yeah, with the court scene and obviously when he gave his coat away and then they circled back and nice coat.
That's right.
Obviously, the voice again, but
So, 4.9 is what I gave overall entertainment. Again, this is
that your highest ever?
Probably.
Yeah, it might be.
I like Batman. From the shirt, like everything, like I could watch Batman films all day.
Yeah. Wasn't that generous for overall entertainment.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.7. I did really enjoy it. I actually look for it on airplanes when I'm on airplanes often.
Right.
Because it's just a really good movie. It's a really good movie. But there are some things, that just aren't perfect. James Bond would be perfect. Most of them. I'm just kidding. I'm a James Bond fan. We're gonna have to review some of those, by the way.
We are.
But at any rate, no, 4.7 for it, just because it is. There's a few things that I think were a little bit slower. Wasn't quite as entertaining. We don't need to get into it, but it just not quite as perfect as you think it is.
Well, I know. The one thing
it sucks to be wrong, Tyler. Well, I mean,
it's hard to be right. The one thing that always does entertain me about Batman, I think he has this whole, like we talked about at the beginning, whole philosophy of not killing.
Yes.
How many times could we just look in the background of like, that probably killed that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Or like,
absolutely.
Henchmen aren't people. Like, if you want to start a civil rights movement, how about the henchmen? Henchmen die and they don't get any sympathy. They have families too. You can't say that I just killed this person and be like, oh, he doesn't have any friends. It doesn't really matter. No, he probably has a family.
I don't want to admit this, but I watched the new Resident Evil on an airplane last night.
Yeah.
Did you hear they had a new one even?
Well, again, Resident Evil goes on to that verge of.
But
I've heard. I knew there was a new one.
It's kind of a reboot because they're the same character names, and I'm like, it was just not good.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking when you say the henchmen and their families, they had the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like his family in the car and stuff, and you're trying to get to attach to his family, and he blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, but really, I mean, it's true. But we shouldn't feel bad for the henchman.
No.
I mean, I'm just saying, Tyler.
Okay.
Maybe the henchman's family.
Well, you don't know what he lived. You don't know what his life was like that got him to be where he's at.
Trauma.
It's a cycle. The cycle just continues. His parent was a henchman, so he was a henchman.
Right. Was a 4.6.
Well, still going back. Okay, I'm not ready to be done with this conversation.
I was trying to move on.
Well, again, even if he's not a henchman, we killed Descartes. We killed Ra's al Ghul.
No, he didn't save him.
So I was watching that.
Yeah.
I was like, it's like, well, like the train. It's like one of those times where like he could have survived that. Of like, because you see the train and
You
like
could
it slide.
actually, you could.
Right.
You totally could.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was just waiting. It's like he could survive. And then the train blows up, and I was like, that's a little bit harder to.
That's definitely harder, but the way that his character in general was, smoke and mirrors, ninja, all that kind of stuff, right?
His character, his Ra's al Ghul, his known as the Lazarus Pit.
Yeah,
so
right,
he would
right.
go into that, and that's what's given. I mean, he's supposed to be like hundreds of years old.
Right. So exactly. So I was actually at the end of that film when I watched it originally. Yeah. I was expecting him to be in the next one.
Yeah, I could have easily seen him come. That's again, we can talk about that with Batman films. I wish there was more continuity, or not a continuity. I wish we could establish character development in earlier films.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Caine was in the second and third movie. We knew who his character was, but his roles were so small. Of like, is that this? Like, you had to do a double take of, was that actually the Scarecrow? Because it was in like 20 seconds.
Yeah. No, I know it is a little bit weird, but whatever. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I gave it a 4.8. I just like this movie. Again, I love Batman. I love superhero movies. I could watch them over and over. And this is by far easily could easily in my top 3. Debatably could be top 2 or 1, mattering on the day.
Yeah, no, that's true. I would say it's in my top 10.
Yeah.
Maybe top.
Well,
probably
top 10 superhero list.
It's certainly top 10 superhero, but I'm talking like top 10 overall.
Like Batman?
No, of overall,
time.
like of all time, like movies I would just watch.
Yeah.
Like I really did like this origin story.
Yeah.
Because it does develop Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Exactly.
That's really important, I think, to me.
And even just going off of the idea of what is the actual mask for Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
Is it Bruce Wayne, the entrepreneur, or is it Bruce Wayne as the Batman? Like, obviously I mean, this movie was saying that the entrepreneur, like, that's his mask. He's doing that so he can do stuff with it as the Batman.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Which I thought was cool.
Yeah, they developed it very well, I thought. I wish they would have continued, honestly.
They teased the Nightwing.
True.
I was so upset.
Yes.
If this movie would have came out now, guarantee you HBO Max would have picked up something.
Oh, yeah.
Which is such a bummer because...
Well, and Christian Bale, frankly, is young enough to still do it.
He is.
And
Michael Keane's coming back for The Flash.
Yeah.
And
which is also kind of weird, but I like it. I like that thought.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, I don't know how, I don't know. It's almost like we should do a special episode on that kind of stuff. But yeah. Anyway.
Tell us your thoughts.
Let us know what you think. Smash. No. What do we say? Hammer? We have a big hammer.
Hammer time.
Like MC?
MC hammer time.
We're going to get the pants?
I could. I'd wear them.
All right. We're out of here. See you next time. Hammer the share button. Go ahead and hammer out a comment to us. Go ahead and hammer the like button. Go ahead and hammer the subscription button. Go ahead and hammer the notification bells, because you know what? That's the best way you can support us. We appreciate it.
Okay, so I'll see you later, huh? I'll give you a call.
So it's done.
It's done.